What's up, gentlemen? Welcome to Muscular Style. Today we have a very special video for you. Today we have Craig from Single Length School on with us today, and we're going to be talking about some things to improve your golf game. Craig, welcome to the channel. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us about your channel, and a little bit about you.
Thanks for having me, Zach, and pleasure to be here. So I founded Single Length School. It's a YouTube channel. You guys can check it out. Just search Single Length School. Also have the website singlelengthschool.com. But it is designed to really get across my philosophy, which is golf smarter, not harder. And one of the ways to do that is single length or one length irons. You do some videos on training like Bryson. Well, Bryson uses single length irons because it eliminates a lot of variables, makes the game easier, and reduces really the number of swings in the bag. And if you're new to golf and you don't understand what I mean when I say swings in the bag, basically with a regular set off the rack from Dick's Sporting Goods or Golf Galaxy, wherever it may be, each club has a specific swing that you need to set up for. But by using single length or one length irons, you simplify it. You can really hit every iron with the same swing. So you reduce from 10 swings to really needing to master one swing. And that's what I focus on, is helping guys and golfers understand that you can make the game a lot easier and play a lot better using single length or one length irons.
Awesome. And we have done a couple of videos. I'll link Craig's channel down below, so check him out. Also, the videos we did, we'll link those in some cards. So check the cards up here as well as in the links below, and you can see those. And then in the future, we'll have some more content coming for you. So, but today we do want to answer a couple of questions. Actually, before we do start, if you haven't tried out a single length set of irons, I do suggest it. In the videos we talk about, I actually swapped my irons and it's been amazing, but we'll get into our questions today because you can watch that content. So Craig, my audience, we have everything from muscular guys like me who are either just getting into golf or between that beginner and intermediate range to the golfer who wants to be muscular, wants to be stronger. But one question I do see is that guys with muscular builds ask, what do I need to change about my swing? I'm a little inflexible, very strong, maybe quick, but what are some things that guys with muscular builds need to kind of adjust with their golf swings?
So for muscular guys, one of the keys to being able to play golf well, and this applies more to muscular guys than, guys like me who aren't built. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not built, but, I'm not bulked up, which I'm hoping to kind of clean up a little bit here over the winter. But, golf is such a game of power generation, and there's so many different ways to really build power into your swing to get distance. But one of the ways to do it is really using your triceps to come in. And, I've seen guys with long back swings and they use that to generate distance. And I've seen guys with short swings that can generate a lot of power and distance. And so for muscular guys that, and this isn't a knock because there's some out there, but the hip turns aren't going to be as great as, someone that's not as muscular, just because of the way the body's built. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be able to generate a lot of power by really turning in your swing and getting the power from your torso and things like that. You're still going to generate a lot of power from your torso because you're so muscular, but you're really going to use your triceps a lot more. For the simple fact, when you start your downswing, you want it to pull. And, you and I have kind of talked a little bit about where the swing starts from. Once you get the club back, you're wanting to pull. And so it's almost like a tricep extension that you kind of start with that pull, and then everything comes into play. So for muscular guys that have the types of arms and those triceps build up, that can really fire off and have that quick fire muscle ability because you've got so much muscle fiber there, you're going to be able to generate power without ever getting the club really up behind your head. It's just going to be you can come from here and generate a lot of power. And even with a little hip and, torso turn, you can generate more speed than someone like me, just because you've got a lot of those muscle fibers that, when you ask for them to react, they fire off.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing for muscular guys, is not thinking, or I don't want them to think that, hey, I've got to be way back here. I've got to go do, learn yoga and, be able to get the whole way back here. Because what happens is when you try to get the whole way back here with a muscular build, now you're going to throw your hips out, your legs are going to start to shift, and it's really going to throw off your timing of your swing and really make it hard to get a consistent swing and start striking the ball well. So I'd rather have you as a muscular guy, instead of trying to come here, I'd rather have you here where you're comfortable, you're not shifting a lot of weight, you're not moving, and let these triceps and that core power that you guys have build up all your swing. Your videos that you kick back to me, if you compare them to mine, I can get way back here and generate power. And I'm 6'3", so I can not only get here and generate a lot of power, but I also bring my arms out and create a long lever. And that's where I build my speed. You drive the ball a hell of a lot further than I do, and your swing is kind of like right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because you're using your triceps and your core, and you're really firing those muscles that you build up. Whereas I don't have that type of bulk and that type of build, where I have to generate my power using levers and more of straight angles and different things like that.
Okay. And it sounds like, obviously priorities first, consistent ball swing, making sure that's there. But for a muscular guy who maybe is worried about being really immobile, or, I know for me, I try to kill the ball. Obviously you fix that with ball consistency, but I guess, is it more beneficial for them to kind of do, like you said, maybe get some yoga, maybe get a little more range of motion? Or is it just more important to focus on, bringing it smoothly back and exploding forward and building speed, in the technique of exploding forward? Or I guess my real question is, how does that fit in? Like, should we as muscular men get more mobile, or is that kind of after you've worked on these other things, that's a nice thing, but it's not, don't just go out and get more flexible right off the bat?
Yeah, I think it depends on, your schedule and how serious you want to take the game. You don't have to, and here's the thing, you don't need to go and kill the ball. So many people have this misconception that you have to put every ounce of weight you've got and all the power you can into crushing that ball. I'll be honest, if you swing 75% of your capacity versus 100%, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit it further at 75% versus the 100%, because you're actually going to hit the center of the club face. You can put all the power in that you want, but if you don't strike the center of the club face, the transfer of power doesn't happen properly. So I'd rather see some guys swing at 75% speed versus 100% and hit the center of the face every time. The misconception that you've got to swing hard to get distance is absolutely false. It's just a matter of hitting the center of the club face. But getting back to that point and back to that question, do you need to add yoga in to add the flexibility? If you want to be serious at the game and you really want to improve your distance, you can add some yoga, do some stretching, add things like that. Do you need to do it on a daily basis? No. If you can do it once a week and even do some kind of yoga from YouTube, just something that works on that core flexibility and really allows those hips to turn a little bit, that's more than plenty. If you spend half an hour a week doing yoga, that's going to be greatly beneficial to allow you that hip turn that you need to kind of get back a little bit more and things like that. But I don't think for muscular guys that, hey, you need to put on a pair of leggings and go and do a yoga class every week. And by the way, if you guys want to do that, that's fine. You want to do hot yoga? Hey, that's up to you. But for me, I'm just going to go out and say, you don't need to do it. you've got enough muscles, you're flexible enough. Just, you can use that and harness your power that you've already have without having to learn to be more flexible or do things like that. You can really enjoy the game without doing it. But if you do want to, I mean, I've seen guys, if you can add, an extra 3 or 4 degrees of hip turn by using yoga, that 3 or 4 degrees of hip turn could be 10, 20 yards on a drive. It all depends on the guy.
Okay. I like that. And as we've been working together, I have done some mobility work, but like you said, it's been minimal. It's been maybe an hour a week. And I don't think that really, I mean, that might have helped, but we changed so much at the same time. I think it's more the technique and, learning to not kill the ball. I remember my last round, I had a 325-yard drive 2 rounds ago, and my last round, I was like, okay, I've got to beat this. And so the first hole, I'm like, okay, focus on what we talked about, just smooth back, keeping my arm straight, and nice smooth swing. And I hit at 340. It's like, oh, well, okay, well, beat the hit my goal for the round. Everything's gonna be downhill from here. But it really isn't about killing him. It's about, like you said, that better technique, hitting it on the center of the face, and muscular guys don't kill the ball. Just have a good swing and enjoy the game. And I think that's the other thing is, as I don't know why we do this with golf, but we think as people just doing it as a hobby, like, oh, I've got to be as good as the tour players, and they spend their lives doing this. We don't, so don't really need to compare.
Tour players, I mean, when they're not on a event day, when it's not Thursday through Sunday, it's not uncommon for those guys to spend 8 hours or more a day hitting a ball, and you're talking 1,000+ balls a day. It's insane how much, to them, a lot of people look at them and say, oh, they're blessed. They had the ability to be a pro golfer and they got really good at it. Listen, a lot of these guys worked when they were kids too. They would go from school and go to the golf team, and my course, we see the golf teams and the time they put in, and being on the golf team and having a 2-hour practice session, allows them to hit a couple hundred balls. When these pros that you see now were kids, they were hitting 200 balls for their high school golf team, and then they'd go home and hit another 200, and then hit 100 when they wake up in the morning. I mean, these guys are really good. They've taken it really seriously, and a lot of guys laugh. There's the guys out there that are beer bellied, and you see a John Daly out there and you're like, how the hell did that guy ever do it? He's not an athlete. He doesn't look like an athlete, but he's put in the time and the effort just as much as any other athlete out there. So they are athletes, just not what everybody sees in their mind, where it's a bulked up guy or a 6'7" center or anything like that. But these guys put in their time, and one of the things that I say is that with the single length irons, you can get better without having to use that kind of time, because you can practice the same swing across all your irons. It doesn't matter. You don't need to go hit a 4-iron 100 times and a pitching wedge 100 times. You hit one club or one iron 100 times, that covers your entire set of irons. That it's the same swing, the same setup. So, don't. You said we spent a lot of time changing things to get you where you were. Maybe in your mind we changed a lot of things, but when you really look at it from the beginning, we didn't change much. We took what you had and built your foundation. So I don't want a lot of guys to get the misconception that there's a ton of things that we changed to get you better. We really didn't. We kind of readjusted your weight a little bit in your swing, got you to stay calm and smooth, and then really let you fire away. And a couple grip changes, and you were hitting it straight and hitting it long, and you've seen some of the benefits. But I don't want guys, especially muscular guys, to be kind of put off by the game of golf because they don't think that they are the ideal golf body, physical, because you don't have to be. There's ways that we can work and make you golf better and get you better scores without really changing anything.
Yeah, I like that. And thinking back on it, you are right. I didn't we didn't change a whole lot. I still have, if you watch my swing, it's not the prettiest swing, but it's efficient enough to do what I need it to do. So, it works. I did have a question on, so a lot of guys are watching this are more muscular and maybe they do feel like, oh, I'm not the right build for golf. But you look at Bryson DeChambeau at 6'1", 240. You look at Tiger Woods. You look at and some of the smaller guys, Rory McIlroy or Brooks Koepka, like they work out hard. They are strong. Like these guys are deadlifting 300 plus pounds, which for their size and their sport is a lot. For some of the muscular guys watching this, maybe it's not, but for the average golfer, that's a good weight. Like, do you see maybe more stronger athletes as far as golf goes on tour coming in the future, or do you think it's like, I feel like it's picked up since Tiger, but do you see that continuing, or do you really see that as an advantage for golf?
I think you're going to see some guys come out, and I'm not saying, Rory and Brooks and, Bryson and Tiger, they've all did what they think made them better, and lifting the weights and working out the way they do. And, out of that group, you're probably talking Bryson and Brooks Koepka as being the two guys that really, okay, I'm bulking up, I'm pushing the sled, I'm hitting the deadlifts, not saying that the other guys don't, but they're not, what do I want to say, trying to max out. Bryson and Brooks are, it's funny, there's, if you guys have ever watched the Golf Channel, there's an episode of a show called Verity, which is a talk show, and he sits down with Brooks, and I can't remember what season it was, but there's an episode where he, goes and watches Brooks train. If you didn't know it was a golf show, you would have thought Brooks Koepka is an NFL player. He's pushing the sled, he's throwing the medicine balls, and Bryson's kind of that same workout mentality where they're probably doing the same workouts you muscular guys are. So do I see some people, some new golfers in the future coming that way? I do, but here's the one thing that I kind of want everybody to understand is, on the PGA Tour, on a weekly average, you're seeing 140 and 150 guys in a tournament. Okay. Out of those 150 guys, there's not one swing that's exactly the same. Everybody's got their own little tweaks and things in their swing. What does stay the same is, across all great players, is the impact position at the ball. It's not how you get there, it's just getting into impact position. So, you can watch all the swings. There's not one that's going to be the same. Everybody has different tweaks and things like that. But if you look at it, now, yes, you're seeing the big names win big tournaments. And I think a lot of that comes from them being able to get to those courses to practice more because they made more money. They can get to Augusta and practice a month beforehand and 2 months beforehand, and they can get to your US Opens and get there and practice more. But if you watch all these other tournaments that happen, usually what you're going to see is just some regular guy, not a Bryson and not a Brooks and, not a Tiger, go out there and compete. A Bryson or a Brooks or a Dustin or a Rory might win the tournament. They might win the tournament. But I bet if you look at second, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see some guy that's not built. It's not the same, and so with golf, the way it is, distance, yes, is a factor, but really the ones that win are the ones that are most consistent, so you don't have to be bulked up and huge to go out and play well. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt if you can be consistent with it. If you can hit it, 350 yards, drive it 350 yards, find the fairway, and then be able to hit a wedge, to 10 feet every time, you're going to win. And you're going to win a hell of a lot. But, at the end of the day, golf is such a fickle game that really levels the playing field, and it doesn't matter. I could be sitting back and, listen, I said John Daly's a pro athlete because he put in the time, yes. But he also put in a lot of time sitting back, drinking and smoking. And so really the stereotypical unathletic guy can go out and win the tournament just as easy and just as well as somebody that's, spending 4 or 5 hours a day in the gym.
Gotcha. I like that. I remember as a few days ago, I heard Tiger on one of his videos say it's not about how good your good is, it's about how good your bad is. And so if your consistency's not there, like, we even saw at the Masters, Bryson won a few and then he's still hitting long, but it wasn't as consistent. He didn't do very well. So I feel like golf is really about, it's very mental, but it's how good is your bad and how consistent can you be, whether things are going well or not. So I like that. Yep. I think takeaway I got from that was muscular build can be helpful, but it's not needed. Like, you work with what you've got and perfect your swing. Basically, use your body in the way that it feels comfortable and make sure you're consistent at impact.
Exactly. And that's, again, you've seen it, firsthand. I'm not going to, unless you really want to learn a new swing, I'm going to try and make the game easier for you with what you've got.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I hope people watching this appreciate that. Unless you aspirations to become a pro player and you have all the time in the world, I have kids and life to live. So it's not me. Awesome. Well, the other question I wanted to look at is, okay, so we've muscular guy, we're practicing, getting consistent, maybe we're working on flexibility. We're kind of at the point where it's like, okay, I need something else. What equipment? Are there any equipment differences for muscular guys, and what are some equipment that we should keep a lookout? It doesn't have to be necessarily brands. Or just, I know for me, I get down this rabbit hole and I'm researching. I'm like, oh, I need this new club. Like, but sometimes I don't know what to look at. So I guess some general recommendations for muscular guys for equipment, things that are important and things that we just don't matter very much.
Yeah. So right off the bat, stop going down the rabbit hole. You're in a position where if you just forget about what's out there and play what you've got with what we've talked about, your game's going to improve. The more you go down a rabbit hole, your wheels are going to start to spin and you're going to drive yourself insane. But in terms of the muscular guy and what gear to look at, it's really going to come down to what we call the swing speed factor. We've talked about simplifying the game, which again, I think if you're a muscular guy or anybody watching this that wants to get into golf, haven't golfed before or kind of got out of it and need to get some new equipment to come back in, obviously, again, I'll beat a dead horse until it's dead and buried, but go with the single length or one length irons right off the bat. That's going to make your game easier. If you're a muscular guy that's already golfing in the market, you really got to take into account how fast you're swinging a club. And it breaks down to not necessarily the gear you're using. If you've got some gear that you're using and you're a muscular guy, that's fine. But what muscular guys need to look at really is not so much the gear. It's the shaft is what you've really got to take into account for. So many golfers lose strokes because they're not playing the right shaft in their clubs. So what you see out there is you've got different flexibilities, almost, kind of like the human body, but shafts and golf clubs, they come in different flexes. And you've got kids flex clubs, and those obviously are going to be shorter. And then you get into a women's flex, seniors or light flex, a regular flex, a stiff flex, an extra stiff flex, and in some cases, a double X. So double extra stiff flex. What a lot of muscular guys are going to look at and probably fall in the category of is going to be in your irons and your wedges, a stiff shaft. Because it's all about the club head speed, and because you're muscular, and we talked about this a little bit earlier with that tricep, and the core strength you guys have, you're probably going to be swinging that club in excess of 100 miles an hour with your iron at full speed. And if that's the case, then you're going to be looking into stiff shafts in your irons, because the more flexibility you have, the harder it is when you're swinging so fast, the harder it is to deliver that club back to the ball in the proper position, because now you've got so much flex in that club. And if you watch and slow down some of the pros, you'll see, when they start to pull down, that club almost makes a U. It's really flexible. And so if it's too flexible, now you're turning your hips and opening up to impact, and your hands are at impact, but that flex is too late, and your club head's still way back here. And now by the time you're through, that club face is open, and you're going to spray it to the right or to the left. You don't want something that's too flexible. So the way I break it down is really based off of driver club head speed, or driving distance. So in terms of, a lot of guys aren't, how do I want to say this? A lot of guys don't want to go spend a lot of money to find out club head speed. A lot of guys don't want to go get professionally fitted because it can be expensive. You go to a fitter, you're going to pay $100 to get fitted, and then they're going to try and sell you these clubs that fit your specs, that next thing you know, you're in for $2,000 set of irons that all you're trying to do is find out how fast and what flex you should have in your shafts. So here's what I've kind of found on average, and this is just my findings. So if you go out to the driving range and you find out you're hitting your driver over or around 295 plus, you're probably an extra stiff in your shaft. And that means driver shaft's extra stiff. Your woods, I would be comfortable saying you're probably in a stiff shaft, and same thing with your irons, in a stiff shaft. If you go out and hit driver and it is 275 to 295, you can probably go stiff shaft in your driver, a stiff shaft in your woods, and you're probably going to look at a stiff or regular in your irons. That can vary a little bit. If you're 250 to 275 with your driver, you're borderline stiff and regular on the driver shaft, 3 wood, and all your irons regular. And then, if you're 235 to 250 with your driver, you're probably a regular in your driver, regular across the board, and it just kind of goes down. It's a little bit easier with club head speeds. Anything over 108 club head speed, you're stiff. If you're hitting 120 club head speed, you're a double extra stiff. Over 100 to 108, you're stiff. It's easier with that. And a lot of guys ask me, how can I find out my club head speed? There are some certain devices out there that you can get in the golf world, relatively inexpensive, a couple $100, that little launch monitors that you can take to the range with you, that you can hit the ball, find out the distance. It'll give you a club head speed. It actually gives you some other numbers, smash factor, some give you spin. And you guys can hit me up anytime through the channel or my social media, and I'll be more than happy to tell you and kind of guide you which way to go. But that a lot of muscular guys are probably going to fall in the stiff category for shafts. And aside from that, the gear, like I said, the only gear I'll really push hard is the one length irons, because it makes the game easier. But in terms of what brand, I don't care. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Some guys are OCD. I'm one of them. My entire bag lineup's all Cobra because I play Cobra irons. It's, to me, I don't know why, but some guys will have a TaylorMade driver, a Cobra 3 wood, a different brand of one length irons, and that's fine. Whatever fits your budget, whatever you're comfortable with, just make sure the shafts are what your game needs.
Yeah, I feel you there. When I swapped over most of my set to Cobra, and I still have 2 lagging TaylorMades, and it drives me nuts that they're not all Cobras. But I think it does help a lot. We swapped my driver from one. It was an 8-year-old driver, so now it's a 2-year-old driver, so that helped as well. But we swapped it from a stiff to an extra stiff, and immediately that was better. I mean, I do swing fairly quickly. I was top 0.1% of shot putter, so my rotational power is there. It's just the club wasn't doing what I needed to because I was moving so fast. Um, my one question, I think a lot of guys, even after hearing all this, no matter how much they hear, they're still going to say, okay, what driver do I need? And like you said, brand doesn't really matter. Lofts on drivers, I mean, even for me, are still, I don't quite know what to use, because you look at pros and they have this wide range from like 5 degrees all the way up to 10.5, maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure, but I have mine at 9. Is there any swing speed rule, kind of like with the shafts, where here's a good loft for you, or is it just trial and error, figure out kind of what comes off the best for you?
Yeah, it's not. There's no shaft to loft ratio. Let's put it that way. It's really optimal launch angles is what affects the loft. And, you can do a Google search, and I'm sure you will when we're done here, Zach, after I mention this. But, there's plenty of studies that correlate ideal launch angles with distance. So, I think one of the most comprehensive I've seen was, I think it was released by Ping. It's a Ping study where a certain club head speed with a certain ball launch angle gives you the best distance.
Okay.
So, and when we're talking ball launch angle, we're talking, when the ball comes off the club face, what's its angle taking off of to the ground, not what loft your driver's set at. So again, some of these launch monitors we've talked about, even some of the ones that are inexpensive that kind of sit behind you, can give you ball launch angles. And so what we're looking for is, for instance, my ideal ball launch angle for my club head speed to get me the most distance is right around a 12.5 degree launch angle. That gets me my most distance. For me to get there, using the tools, I could be hitting 10.5 degree driver with one brand, and another brand, it could be a 9 degree driver. And a lot of it depends on where you're hitting the ball in your stance. How far forward is it? If it's more forward, you're going to get a higher launch angle. Therefore, your club needs to be a little less lofted. So really finding the best loft for your driver, there's a few factors that come into it, but it all comes down to, once you have a consistent setup for your driver and a consistent tee height and a consistent swing, now you need to say, okay, what launch angle am I coming out at? And if you're coming out, a degree or 2 degrees high or low, now you're going to adjust your loft of your driver a half a degree or a degree, depending on, what you need it to do.
Okay. And so it sounds like for most guys, getting fit for a driver is really going to be the only way to figure out the lofts, unless they want to buy a launch monitor and kind of practice and play with it and look at these variables.
Yeah, and getting fitted for the driver is probably, if you're going to get fit for any club, the driver is going to be your best option. But that would be the one club I'd say, okay, because it's usually cheaper for just the driver fitting. Okay, drop the $75 for it and then buy the $400, $500 driver, whatever it is. Personally, I've never been professionally fit. That's just me. I can almost do my fittings myself and know what specs I need to do just because I've been at it so long. But, again, if you don't want to go somewhere and you want to kind of take the game seriously a little bit, get yourself one of the launch monitors, find out your angles, get your swing speeds, understand all of that, and that's going to help you build out your custom set of clubs. And the only factor you're really not going to be able to really determine when it comes to custom fitting clubs for yourself is going to be your lie angle. That's kind of something that can be adjusted. You're only a professional fitter is going to be able to kind of really help you get the right lie angle on your clubs, and that's another wormhole that goes for miles, which is another day, another topic. But it's you can kind of get a good idea and fit yourself really if you have a $200 launch monitor. you can get the angles, you can take some video with your phone. It's really amazing how much the technology has helped. And again, but at the end of the day, if you want the perfect fit for your swing and your game, the only way to do it is to go to a professional fitter.
And I think most guys watching this are going to kind of do what you've done and kind of what I've done, just play the game and tinker a little bit, make sure it's a consistent swing and see where you're losing distance. I mean, even just working with you a few times, we took my driver, had a 10.5-degree driver. I did switch it because I needed a different shaft, but I turned it down, and honestly, that was all we needed. Was we knew I swung faster and the ball was coming out high, so we turned it down and it was good to go. So
yeah,
and 340's plenty. I'd like to see the 385 or 400, but I mean, I don't ever need to hit anything even close to that to enjoy the game of golf. So
all in due time.
Yeah,
get it in peaks. Get it in the peak of summer. When the balls fly a little bit further, and you'll be up there 370.
Yes, that'll be awesome. Awesome. Well, I guess my last question for you is: we started off with what guys should focus on. What are the biggest mistakes you see beginner to intermediate golfers make, regardless of swing or build or anything? What are just kind of one or two of the biggest mistakes you see guys making on the course?
The biggest mistakes, if I have to say 1-2, is number one, not trusting the process. It's just like when, especially for the muscular guys that are in the gym all the time, golf is not something that 99.9% of the population of golfers is going to be able to walk outside and hit the ball well. You've got to put in the work, you've got to put in the effort. Some guys that are the weekend scramble guys that, play once a month with their buddies and get hammered and all that stuff, then that's, they have the understanding that and shouldn't expect to play well. On the other hand, if you do want to play the game well and be able to shoot reasonable scores that you're comfortable with, and that in most cases are better than your buddies, you have to put in a little bit of time and put in the effort. And I see so many guys just say, I tried this, it didn't work for me, and I'm switching off. It doesn't work that way. You have to build up to being well or being good at something. I saw something actually this morning in one of the Facebook groups I follow, regarding the one-length irons. And there's a guy in there selling his one-length irons. He's like, played them 6-7 times, not for me. It's like 6-7 times isn't, it's not worth it. If you've only played or hit them 6 or 7 times, yeah, you're not going to get it. It doesn't matter. That's not, and you've golfed for years. I get it. You think you should be able to make the switch. It doesn't work that way. So guys give up and don't focus on it. So really putting in the work is one of the biggest mistakes. And the other big mistake is, really trying to kill the ball. Don't kill the ball. It's amazing how swinging a little bit easier and focusing on your contact will improve the game. Hey, listen, everybody wants to be Bryson. I get it. And I'm the first one to tell you, when my game's bad, it's because I'm trying too hard. If you slow it down, focus on contact, and let all the bad crap go. You hit a bad shot, nothing you can do about it. Why sit there, linger on it? Your next shot, I shouldn't be here because I just hit that shot. Well, you are. Get over it, deal with it, and hit your shot. So it's amazing. Put it in play, put it where you need it, and to do that, don't kill it.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I was watching a video the other day, and there was a pro player, and he was talking through his game, and the guy was like, okay, so if you're in a tournament, what do you do? And if you're just playing, what do you do? And he's like, in tournament, he turns everything back to 75, 80%. He's like, if I have 100% and I hit it at 80%, I know it's going to be consistent. I know it's going to be where I need it to be. So I feel like the more we practice and maybe have that consistency and swing speed, it's easier to dial it back and always be consistent. And also note, take advantage of those guys selling their single length irons. I got a $800 or $900 set for $250. That was a year and a half old. So take advantage of that if you can.
Yeah, I don't think he's got it quite that good of a deal, but it's funny. And, I think one of the other things that guys need to remember, and I just thought of this, sitting here, I'm actually looking over at my beautiful wife who's getting the kids ready for school, but, shit happens on the course. And what reminded me of this, looking at her favorite golfer is John Rahm. And I'm sitting there watching the Masters this weekend.
I love what?
Well, she loves because he's got a nice muscular ass, so that she finds him very attractive. But we're sitting there, and I'm watching the Masters this weekend, and this comes back to getting over a terrible shot. I'm sitting there, and you're watching the number 2 player in the world, top of fairway wood, down into the rough. And then his very next shot, he hits a terrible shot that bounces off the trunk of a tree and into the woods and loses the ball. He took a 7 on the hole, looking like a beginner golfer. So I think that just proves my point that you've got to let the bad stuff go. The number 2 ranked player in the world can still hit shots like the player playing his very first hole. It's funny the way the game works, but again, guys, just relax, breathe, let it all go, and don't try and do too much. Keep it simple, stupid. The old KISS method. Keep it simple and let the game play itself out. Put in the work. Don't practice with the idea that you have to kill the ball. Practice with the idea that you need to swing at 75 to 80%.
I think a big problem is a lot of us, I know I do this, but like on Instagram, you see the pros skipping it across the pond and going up on the green and hole in one. It's like, what in the world? And these shots are 1 in 1,000. Pros are more likely to do it, but I think a lot of us don't realize that, like you said, they do have these beginner moments, so to speak, where it's, Tiger at the last Master shot at, I think it was a 10 on a hole, which is not a good score. Like, that's the worst score he's ever had. But, golf tests you, it pushes you. And, as a beginner, intermediate, just have fun with it. Just learn to be consistent, learn to enjoy it. And I think that's probably the best thing you can do to get better at the game, honestly.
Yep, and I completely forgot about Tiger's gaff there too. 3 in the water on that hole on a par 3. So it happens, and things happen. So just relax, let the game go easy. Don't overdo it. The golf is easier when you make it easier. And what I mean by making it easier is make your swing easier. Make the shot easier. Don't play the shot that's going to put you in trouble. If I've got 200 yards to carry water to the green, or I've got fairway that I can go out 180 yards and keep myself 20 yards from the green, do I go 180 to the fairway, or do I try and carry that 200 yards? Make the game easy. Don't go in the water. Don't get yourself in trouble. Go the 180 route. That's another thing I see so often is the mental aspect of it. And, I can walk guys through it. I can talk guys through it. I can talk them off a ledge. But at the end of the day, sometimes they just want to jump.
Yeah. And so true. I'm thinking back to rounds that I've had where some shots are just awful. But Craig, it's been great to have you on. I appreciate all of the wisdom and answering all these questions. Where can guys learn more about you, find you? We will link all of this below. We've had cards going on throughout this, but let us know where we can find you and how they can learn a little bit better on Single Length School.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, and I appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure talking golf with you. And, when I have, some muscle questions, I always come your way too. But, if guys want to find me on YouTube, it's just search Single Length School. You'll find me. Over on Facebook and Instagram, it's at Single Length School. On Twitter, it's at One Length School. And then they can also head to my website, singlelengthschool.com. They can, if they look back and see some of the remote videos that we did, some of the remote lessons, they can sign up for those with me on the website there. They're actually a pretty inexpensive package compared to other golf teachers. So they can do that. I have links to all kinds of different golf suppliers and different tips and training aids over on the website as well. So they can do that, or if they just want to email me directly, it's singlelengthschool@gmail.com.
Awesome. And like I said, we have links below. But before we close, I just want to encourage you guys, if you do want some golf lessons, Craig is your man. I looked locally before reaching out to him, and golf lessons can get really expensive. And honestly, I was somewhat worried with the virtual aspect, how much we could actually get done, but my golf game has changed 100%. I went from, every single aspect has improved. My driving range went almost 100 yards. My scores came down by, my handicap came down by about half. Like, it just, over only a few lessons, you can get a lot done, and technology has made it so you can do that. And Craig knows how to use the tool. So reach out to him if you do need lessons. But gentlemen, until next time, stay muscular and stay stylish.